Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be at this moment, or if you're watching us on the replay. Welcome to another office hours here at hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I'm the agency trainer here, and we open the doors to the virtual office every week and let you come in and ask whatever you would like to ask. Currently, 6 questions in the queue today, and I'd invite everybody to ask a question if you have it. That link is waiting on you in the chat. And as always, you can ask a question at any time during the week by going to wpnathan.com and clicking the Ask a Question button right up there in the header. WP Nathan is just a demo site, and you can ask your question there, and we'll get those. Generally, we take those in the order they're received. So if you ask your question early in the week, you'll probably be first out of the gate. So let's get started with a little bit of WordPress news, as is our habit. So as we take a look, finally, we have a launch schedule for WordPress 6.9.1. We've been waiting on that for over a month now. And so just a couple of days ago, Aaron Jorbin posted this release schedule. So Tuesday of this week, they actually went through the first round of bug scrubs. And we're looking at a release date of Tuesday, February the 3rd. Tuesday, February the 3rd is the general release for 6.9.1. It doesn't look like there are a lot of really significant issues that they're going to be dealing with. It mostly really edge cases of some of the bugs you heard reported with 6.9 that were really seeming to be edge cases. We didn't have any issues. We've had all our sites on 6.9 now for a few weeks. No issues whatsoever. So this will be coming in a couple weeks, 2 Tuesdays away from now. So put that on your calendar and you'll have an inbox full of emails probably when that happens. Something else to pay attention to. This is an interesting report. I'm going to drop this link in the chat for anybody that would like to click on this and follow along. This is the report from the plugins team, which I missed a couple of weeks ago. But some interesting statistics here from the plugins team. Now, you may remember that a couple of years ago, the plugins team was overwhelmed with lots of submissions. There was reported like a 3-month backlog on getting new plugins evaluated and so forth. And they put a bunch of changes in place. They put some AI systems in place to check for the most common issues in submitted plugins. And a whole new team was established and so forth. And they've been doing an excellent job ever since. And I want you to look at some of these numbers. The plugins team in 2025 reviewed over almost 13,000 plugins for WordPress. Look at that. 13,000 plugins for WordPress. That's over 40% increase from 2024. That is amazing, particularly since this is a volunteer team. Now, many of the people on the team are sponsored by companies in the WordPress space to do that work, but still pretty amazing number of plugins that have been added. So yeah, like Paul is saying in the chat, you think WordPress is here to stay? Development is continuing. And I mean, quite frankly, you would expect this with AI tools being able to accelerate plugin development. You would expect to see a lot more plugins added, and that's exactly what we see. So scrolling down the list here, just a few things. There was a little kerfluffle. There's always a kerfluffle in Reddit, but somebody was fussing about the AI tools that the plugin team uses. And there's one little reply to that I thought was funny, and maybe you've heard about that little bit of drama that happened, but the reply was, please don't ever use AI responses to emails. And yeah, so you can kind of see through the, maybe take a guess on what some of those things were happening. But they talk a little bit about how their internal scanner uses AI. The plugin check plugin, which is a new thing that this new plugin team implemented, has really helped developers create plugins that pass right through on the first try to get in the plugin directory. So interesting article here, a little bit of behind the scenes on how the plugins team works, and an amazing number of plugins, I think, added in the last year. So that's good news. Another post in the core blog came from a longtime WordPress contributor, John Blackburn. WordPress will be dropping support for PHP 7.2 and 7.3 in WordPress 7.0, which is scheduled for April of this year. If you've got sites on WordPress 7.2, I mean, Good grief. Those have been out of support for I don't even know how many years. Many, many, many years. Now, one of the interesting bits in this, I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in the chat for you as well, if you would like to have some of these stats. This I find interesting. What is the spread on PHP versions that WordPress is using? And look at this. Still, 22% of WordPress sites are running on PHP 7.4, which is a very old version of PHP. It has been out of support for many years, and that's just a shame. The largest percentage of the pie, though, is PHP 8.2 at 27%. So, and then it significantly goes down from there. So, interesting stats here. We actually do have one site that is still running on PHP 7.4 because it's ancient and there are compatibility issues. And the way this is an interesting little discussion, but the way we position that with the client actually has to pay an extra security fee on top of that because of potential risk. And so it's just a little nudge to help to get them. You really need to upgrade this website, and that should be coming for our particular client in a few months. It's a nonprofit client. Had to get the funding in place, but yeah. How many of you have anybody still have sites running on 7.4 like I do? Melanie has a couple. Yeah. And the other Melanie said, yeah, outdated themes, absolutely. Trying to move a really old unsupported theme up to 8.0. That was a continental shift in PHP. A lot of stuff breaks. And many of you that have been around for a while, you remember that change from PHP 7.4 to 8. It was a big deal, lots of compatibility problems and so forth. Yeah, so just think about that. 7.4 is well out of security support for PHP for several years. And so it's definitely time to nudge those folks along. Yeah. Something else, this is just a quick track notice. Track is the way that the WordPress core team tracks internal requests that eventually get merged into core and other things. This is just a little blip that I ran across about a little bit of the changes that are happening to the WordPress admin area. So a remake of the WordPress admin area. I'm not sure if that's going to be in WordPress 7 or not. Some of it may be, but one of the things they're talking about are adding view transitions. And basically what that means is the loading of a page in the admin area will be more fluid. So it's like a CSS transition. It's going to make the WordPress admin area feel more app-like. So I think that's good for everybody. And it's really a light, just a little bit of CSS. And so it feels, make the site feel a little more app-like, which is good. So that's coming in WordPress 7, most likely. I know a number of you are Beaver Builder fans. We are in my agency. We love Beaver Builder. And they've been doing a lot of work on the core Beaver Builder builder. One of the biggest deal here is the components. And so if you've not played yet with the new Beaver Builder components, this actually lets you build rows or modules or whatever and allow just some of the pieces to be edited. So, if you don't want a client, for example, changing the size or things like that would break the site, you can just set by clicking the little plug icon, which pieces of this module can they edit. So it's pretty good. It's very well done. We're actually using it on a site that we're building right now, and it's quite nice. Another little bit of news here is the Aderim Web Agency Summit. This is coming on April 27th through the 30th. Take a look at that. This is a great event. It's an all online event, and you can put your name in there and get notice when tickets are available. They do have a limited number of tickets, and there are, as usual, some really top-level speakers, like the editor-in-chief of Smashing Magazine, the brand designer for Typeform, the creator community lead for Canva, some noticeable WordPress faces like Adam Warner and our own Mike Demo. But, Freemius, Zapier, so lots of recognizable folks here, and this is usually a really good event. So tickets are free. Just get your name on that list so you don't get left out. One more thing I'll mention before we roll into some questions, and just a quick note, again, if you're just joining us and you have a question to ask, the link to do so is there in the chat. here's the next bit. Now, this probably isn't accessible yet to many of you unless you have put down a bunch of money to get the really high level Claude subscription, the $100 a month Claude Max subscription. But this is a peek into where AI tools are headed in 2026. And this really excites me. I've not yet put down the money, $100 a month on the Claude Max yet, but I might. Because we're using Claude more and more in agency work over Chat GPT. I don't know, it might be worth a try, but take a look at this. Maybe you've seen this already. I'm going to just play this quick video. It's like a minute, but this is the new Claude Co-work, where you can switch over to that mode, and it gives Claude access to some local folders in your system. So this example says, create a file that summarizes my meetings from this week. And so you give it a folder to look at, and then you say, let's go. And so it's going to take a look and look through all of the transcripts and so forth of meetings. How do you want it? Quick summary, notes. And so it's going to go through and do all of that. It's agentic. So it's following, a flow to give you what you're looking for. Let's see, one more thing. Let's take a look at the calendar and see what's going on tomorrow and put the deck together for the meeting, the team stand up. And so it can have access to your browser. It looks at all the things, and it puts together with some built-in PowerPoint patterns slide deck for the team stand-up meeting. Is that not amazing? I think that's pretty darn amazing. So again, this is obviously it's a demo video. So everything always goes perfect in a canned demo video. But if just part of that is actually something that will start impacting our daily work, can you imagine how amazing that's going to be? I just think that is incredible. They also give another example down here of, I'm sure none of your desktops look like this. Okay, be honest. Be honest. How many of your desktops right now kind of look like that screenshot? If we were honest. Okay, so watch what this does. And I'd be a little afraid to give it this level of access, but it's saying, help me organize my desktop. But look at this. It's going to take a look at all of the things. And there's the plan. And now we're going to execute the plan. And watch it do its magic. It has access to move files, to create folders in the desktop, and boom, that's what it did. Now that was actually a live demo. So anyway, this kind of agentic, more local computer operating system impact of AI is where we're headed next. If I had to guess, I would guess that both Windows and Mac and maybe Linux will have some sort of agentic AI built in like that. That's where we're headed. Some folks are talking about that. I find it really interesting. So we shall see what actually happens. Before we get into questions, let me just remind you of our upcoming live streams with hosting.com. Of course, every Thursday we have office hours. You are here for that. On the 20th, we just did this one earlier this week, where we talked about getting WordPress emails to the inbox. I've gotten several good comments from many of you who attended that. I'm glad it was helpful. And if you missed it, the replay is either up or will be up shortly. Katie, do we have that replay available? She can let us know in the chat. We have a great live, so it is available in the replay, which is at replays.myagencysuccess.com. I'm going to drop all those links for you in the chat again, replays.myagencysuccess.com. We have a great live stream coming up with Daphne Monroe from the hosting.com team on rich content and video and how they're going to define the future of SEO. That's coming up next week. And then February 10th, I'll be talking about imposter syndrome and how to survive a crisis of confidence. And then finally, on the 24th of February, I'll be talking about how do we talk to our clients about website security. So I just mentioned something earlier about charging a security fee if the site is out of date. So it'll be things like that on how do we position security consultations, not only to inform our clients, but also to help to build some recurring revenue in our agency. So that's coming up on February 24th, and that ought to be a really helpful live stream. All right. Well, let's turn our attention to some questions. I'm going to drop in one more time the link to ask your questions if you've not done so already. We currently have 6 questions in the list, and we will start with Awesome Paul. Hey, Paul, how are you, sir? All right. Paul's question is, in the WordPress Cadence theme, I see placeholders like copyright, year, and site title. Yes, a lot of themes do something like this with a brace and something in the middle. How are these different from creating shortcodes? Is one of them preferred over the other? How can we create placeholders in Cadence like this? Great question, Paul. And they are essentially like shortcodes. Cadence and other themes that use this approach will have certain, like it built into the code. It's basically anytime you see copyright, it's going to just with PHP, as the page renders, that as the theme is, as the code in the theme is taken into consideration as the page is rendered, it will replace copyright in braces with a copyright symbol in the word copyright. So it's effectively like a shortcode. They're just baked into the theme itself. Some themes, rather than using placeholders with braces, just have their own built-in shortcodes with brackets, and it's the same thing. It really is the same thing. So are they different from? Is one preferred? Not really. They're obviously theme specific. So many themes are not going to support the copyright in braces. And so if it was me, I would default to something that's more standardized, like a shortcode. So for example, in our base site for our agency, we have a whole custom settings page with lots of information, like the year the company was formed, the name of the company, their phone numbers, all those sorts of things. That's in a custom settings page in the WordPress admin area that we then can echo with shortcodes out throughout the site. And so by changing one field in the custom settings page in the admin area, that updates everything throughout the site. And shortcodes are just a better way to do that. That way, what you're doing is not theme dependent. I would do it that way. So if someday up the road you change to a different theme, things aren't going to break. Does that make sense? So much better to do things the WordPress way rather than any theme, even if it's your favorite theme in the world. You're probably better long-term sustainability wise to build shortcodes and not create code that's going to do brackets and braces instead. Does that make sense, Paul? Well, let's move on to the next one in the list, and this is from Alvin. Hey, Alvin. Alvin says, a client would like something like the one located here at Pour Clogging Ingredients Checker. Okay. Alvin, I'm trusting you that this is going to be a family-friendly website. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Acneclinic.com and the Pour Clogging Ingredients Checker. What are we doing here? For example, Neutrogena Deep Clean. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to use my little text sniper app and grab that suggestion, and we'll paste it here. Check ingredients. Great news. This product contains no pore clogging ingredients. Okay. Well, that's good. And we have this whole list of things. This just looks like static text. Okay. The question. It's a WordPress site, looks to be a custom plugin. So good job sniffing behind the scenes there, Alvin, and figuring that part out. Other option is to try to find an embeddable iframe checker, but I haven't found anything yet. The best way to approach this. Okay. All right. So I can only take a guess, Alvin, at the wizardry that went into creating this little tool here. I am guessing that your client is probably in a different industry. Is that right? And they just want something similar to this for their application. Yeah. Okay. So the work here is much less on how it's going to display on the web page. It's much more about how do we build this giant database of all of the typical products out there that people would be checking. So the way it looks like it's working, I'm guessing, I have no idea, never seen this page before, but they probably have all of these ingredients that they have, as a medical clinic said, these are pore clogging comedogenic ingredients, whatever that means. It's probably a fancy way to say they clog your pores. Um, and they have a giant database full of products with those products listed ingredients. So somebody spent a long time taking products and dumping their ingredient list into the database. And so probably what this thing is doing is you type in the thing, it's doing some sort of fuzzy match against the database and then asking, hey, does this product have certain, does it match any of these pore clogging ingredients? So there is a gigantic, if I had to guess, there's a gigantic database behind this. And that's where the work is going to be. And so the question, Alvin, is does the client already have a giant database like this? Because that's where the work is going to be. And at that point, you could access that information in a number of different ways. So Alvin, the client is asking, or you're asking, if there is an industry standard database or does it need manual updating? Yeah. So this is the key, right? This is the key to this whole thing. And you could do this in WordPress or out of WordPress. You could create custom tables in the database, and you would need to have some sort of query against those tables to try to find matches, right? So this is definitely not simple. Manual is scary. Could you use an Airtable? Airtable is just a database, right? So sure, you could. My inclination would be, Alvin, I would start with, if there is an industry standard database, then what format is it available in? And it's probably going to be in a MySQL type format, as that's a very open standard. That's where I would start. Really hard to advise without knowing that bit of information, because that's kind of the pivot point. Terry's got an excellent idea there also. You could turn this into a chat bot with access to certain database tables. That's actually a really interesting way to do this. And keeping it updated, honestly, it could even be this way. I'm thinking out loud here as we go, Alvin. But it could be that this is a separate database on the server that can just be updated with new information, right? If the industry provides this. If they don't provide it, then you're likely going to have to create some sort of interface that the client can populate, and that's not going to be any fun. In that case, you might find that Airtable's a better use, but getting that Airtable embedded well in WordPress so that it responds well to smaller screen sizes is going to be the challenge there. But big picture, this is all about the data. And you can access that data through a number of means. And I like Terry's suggestion of putting a chatbot in front of it. That's really the most modern approach to this solution, rather than just a giant text box right here that we type in. And you might even find that there are many chatbots. Like one of the big ones for this is called DocsBot. D-O-C, let me pull it up here. DocsBot.ai. This is one that I know a lot of folks are using. I've heard a lot of good about this. We've never used it in a project yet, but this allows you to set up your own custom database in their system with all this information, and they have the tooling already where a chatbot just answers from that database. So this might be a really interesting way to do this. But I would, Alvin, make sure you are shaping this engagement as, this is not something I would do inexpensively. In other words, this is thousands of dollars of consultative time for you to help them, guide them through this process. So does that help at all, Alvin? It's all going to be about the database. And so maybe you can follow up even with us next week and see what the client has said about this database that either exists or, or how to create it. Yeah. So get that info and let's follow up and see where we end up next week. Next up is Davude. Welcome, Davude. We talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago, I believe, Davude, where the client is running a cigar business and his domains. There's a technical question. And so you're saying that you had to deal with Namecheap to get access to the domain. I remember this question. Some of you may remember it as well. We got kind of hung up on old domain, new domain. Could we get access? So it looks like you were able to get access. 20 emails over 2 weeks with Namecheap. That doesn't sound like any fun. Um, Emailing the owner of the account. We were able to reset the password. Excellent. So that was the best possible solution in that scenario. So congratulations on slogging through that mess and getting it done. So now the technical question. Since restoring the backup, we've had many issues with people not being able to place orders, including but not limited to coupon codes not applying to the price in the cart, even though the message says they were applied successfully. Oh dear. After many hours of debugging on my own and asking various AI agents questions about the errors I was seeing, we've determined the backup is damaged as a result of being on the old host systems and being overloaded when you manually backed up the database. I mean, that could happen. That would be a really odd thing to happen. But I think we're kind of in odd land right now. What is the best way to fix this without having to rebuild the site and reconfigure all the payment tax and shipping gateways? In other words, are there any database commands I can run to fix the problem with the WooCommerce tables that are causing orders not to go through? Okay. Ooh, David, this is an interesting one. I've never seen this sort of thing happen and it be a database issue. I'm not saying it couldn't be, but I've not ever seen that happen before. We've had lots of weirdness with WooCommerce, and it's generally code or plugin conflicts that cause those sorts of issues. The coupons, particularly, is that WooCommerce core, like the built-in WooCommerce coupons feature, or do you have a plugin? Is there any kind of coupon plugin that's running in addition to WooCommerce? That would be the first place I would see, but you're saying that's just one example. The site is built on Elementor. Okay, that's fine. But there's not like a third-party coupon plugin like discount codes for WooCommerce is one that we use a lot. There's not any other kind of plugin managing coupons other than the built-in WooCommerce one. Is that right? I think that's what you're saying. Okay, so let me just answer the... Okay, good. That default WooCommerce coupons. I'll just answer the direct question, then maybe we can brainstorm about some other things. So is there what's the best way to fix the site? Are there any database commands you can run? So what you can do, let me just get into cPanel here. David, do you have access to cPanel and WHM for the site? So if you are in cPanel, or most hosts are going to have some sort of PHP myadmin, because your host uses CWP. I'm not sure what that is. Do you have access to PHP myadmin? Okay, good. So here are the tables for WP Nathan, and it's very simple. You just, you can do an analyze, check, optimize, repair. So what I would do is just run a repair on everything, and then run and optimize on everything. Obviously, make sure you have a backup first. I'm doing this just because it's a demo site and it doesn't matter. But okay, you did this already. That's going to likely fix any, like there are no other commands that you could run. I mean, this is a UI for running SQL commands. So it's saying repair these tables. So if you did that and that's not solving the problem, I don't think this is a database issue. I really, really don't. Somebody said, have you tried recreating the coupons? I would suggest the issue may be the files themselves. Have you tried reinstalling WordPress, reinstalling WooCommerce, and so forth? Yeah. So the way I would do that, David, is I would go into, the file manager, delete the WooCommerce plugin, upload the WooCommerce zip, and uncompress it. Do it that way so that all of the files are wiped out. Now, obviously, that's going to be a minimal amount of downtime, but if you upload all your zips first, then delete your folders, and then uncompress the zip, it'll go pretty quickly. But I would do a WordPress reinstall. You can do that from within the WordPress dashboard. Again, make sure you have a backup, obviously, before you do any of this. But you can just run a reinstall of the current WordPress version, and that's going to refresh all the core files. And this generally works without any issue whatsoever. But make sure you have a backup first. So my guess is it's core files that are causing these problems. Is there any, Davude, are there any functions that have been added to the site, either in a functions.php file or in a code snippets plugin or in an MU plugin that are impacting WooCommerce? I would also look for that. Okay, so you're saying, what did I just do? Boy. You're saying that, yes, there might be some custom code. I bet you, Davude, it's going to be custom code. Of all of the options, my guess is database is, I have never, in all the years I've been working with WordPress, I have never seen problems like this that are related to database. Yeah, and this might be a case of your favorite AI tool sending you down a rabbit trail and putting you into a spiral of trying to solve something. Yeah. Oh, it's not the custom code because the AI had you comment that out. Okay. That was really weird, Davude. My guess is it's probably going to be core files that something didn't come over correctly. If it turns out to be the database, I'll be shocked. But I don't know how you would fix that, other than optimizing and repairing the database. And you can edit and delete coupons, no problem. You said you were, yeah. Are there any, Davude, are there any third-party WooCommerce plugins that are running? Anything that's like a WooCommerce add-on that isn't a core WooCommerce plugin, like a WooCommerce Stripe plugin? And not Elementor, but any third-party add-on, like here in WP Nathan, we've got a couple things that touch WooCommerce, payment and shipping add-ons. Okay. Are they the official? Are they the official plugins from WooCommerce, or are they a third-party add-on? Melanie's suggesting a particular vendor. You all can look at that in chat. That yes, I've also had problems with them. I would reinstall everything, Davude. Any WooCommerce related plugin I would reinstall, just to make sure the files are clean. That's part of the troubleshooting process. So Davude, you have someone there that's offering some help. I would recommend, this is what our Slack group is for. So if you two can connect in the My Agency Success Slack group, I'm going to drop in the link bundle here again. There at myagencysuccess.com, you can get an invite to the Slack group. That's a great spot for you two to connect. Yeah, so reinstalling the plugins, I would definitely do that, just if for no other reason as to rule that out, right? So really, let me ask you this. Are you looking, I'm sure you are, but are you looking at the error logs, the root and the WP admin error logs? Okay. Are there errors that are happening in those logs? Anything WooCommerce related? Not anymore. What version of PHP are you running? It could be, all these are such edge cases, but this is a very, very odd situation. You've tried all the versions of PHP. Okay. Yeah, Davude, this is a very, very weird case. So I would try reinstalling everything, and from there, if that doesn't fix it, it's going to end up being something very odd. So that, at least, Davude, I think gives you a direction. I'm scratching my shiny bald head on this one. I really don't know what to tell you other than that. It's a good question. All right, keep us updated, Davude. I would definitely like to hear if you find out some more information or if you end up solving the problem. All right, let's move on to the next question in the list, and it comes from Phoebe. Hey, Phoebe. Phoebe says, I have a client with a site that gets maybe 10 form submissions per month. I have her on Fluent Forms Lite, but it stopped sending email notifications. So, as a free alternative, what do you suggest? Forms Lite, Contact Form 7, Fluent Forms Free, another one. Okay, so pausing for a moment, Melanie, that could be it with Davude's issue. Davude, is there any kind of caching running on the site? I should have thought about this at the beginning. Any kind of caching running on the site, and are the WooCommerce checkout pages excluded from the cache? Yeah, Melanie, you're exactly right. That particular host is very aggressive with their cache. That may be your issue. No, so I know it's not on that particular host anymore, Davude, but Davude, did you clean up the SiteGround caching files? Yeah, like Terry's saying, there could be legacy files. So check a lot of times where you'll find those. Well, check this in the content. Make sure that there aren't any lingering, like this is an object cache PHP from the Lightspeed server. There may be some other caching, like advanced cache.php, something like that. Look for caching files in the WP content, because that could be, you might be running into some caching conflict, and that would absolutely create the kinds of things you're experiencing. All right. Great idea, Melanie. Thanks for posting that. Okay. So back to the question. Sorry, Phoebe. Back to Phoebe's question about email. So, Phoebe, did you attend Tuesday's Who Stole My Email live stream? Because we talked all about this issue, and the likelihood of it actually being the form plugin is low. It's much more likely that you have a configuration issue with whatever is sending the email on the server side. So, Phoebe, were you in that? Were you able to catch that live stream? Okay, you did. So, do you have either an SMTP or a transactional email service set up to manage the sends in this WordPress site? Okay, so I know she's on Fluent Forms Lite, but the form plugin is not going to deal with the mechanism that sends the email. WordPress form plugins are going to hand it off to WP Mail, and then it goes from there. So Fluent, for example, has Fluent SMTP, which is another plugin that you can use to either connect to a transactional service like Postmark, or connect it to an email to send an email address via SMT to send via SMTP. You're going to need that. Every WordPress site really needs that, or it's going to create flaky sending like what you're probably experiencing. So my recommendation is Postmark. And Phoebe, if you're serving multiple clients, you can solve this whole problem for $18 a month, and just put all your clients in your Postmark account. They can each get their own server inside of Postmark, and so it solves the problem. Because you will spend hours. Trust me, I've done it. You will spend hours and hours fighting configuration issues to try to get those emails to land in the inbox, where a very low monthly fee to one of these transactional email providers like Postmark, Mailgun, some of the others, that just solves the problem, and you don't have to worry about it, and you get reporting. So that's what I would recommend that you do. And stay away. I mentioned this during the live stream, but stay away from the free options of transactional email plugins. Many of them offer a free tier, and they always put their lowest reputation servers in the free tier, which just makes sense. And so you could still end up with deliverability issues. So it's worth paying for just as a business. And I bundle that into our care plan. I know others add an extra fee for that, an extra $5 a month from all of your clients to get email deliverability service. All right. So that's what I would recommend, Phoebe. Is there another nuance to this that I missed, or are you good? Well, good luck with that. I think I'll tell you, the world gets brighter when you when you bring a transactional email plugin into your world. Next up in the list is Beth Livingston. Hey, Beth Livingston. Okie dokie. This is a great question. Oh, when your LLM is wrong and you find the correct answer, do you tell the LLM the correct answer? You know, it depends on how good you want to feel about yourself and if you want to rub your LLM's nose in it. Uh, so here's the thing. What are you trying to do by telling the LLM the right answer? If your goal is, I want to correct it so it doesn't answer this way for anybody else, it doesn't work that way. So by providing the correct answer in the conversation, that will impact your contained conversation, or perhaps if it's in a project, it might also impact everything in that project, but maybe not. But in that conversation, most likely it's going to remember that this was the answer that you gave it to whatever the question was. But it's not going to affect my responses or anybody else's responses, unfortunately. Yeah. And by default, I just try to be nice to the LLM because one day they will rule the world and they will remember you. I stand by that. Yeah, does that make sense? Anybody else have thoughts on that? Yeah, Terry's mentioning most LLM, if your chat GPTs and Claudes, the bigger ones, do have a memory option, and you can tell it, remember this. If it's something that's going to come up later on in other conversations, you can add that to your global memory. Just remember this. Your global memory, or your global commands, your canned prompts, I'm trying to remember the exact name for it, and it's gone. But your global instruction set that applies to all of your conversations in the AI tool does take up context. And what I mean by that is there's only so much that the tool can think about all at the same time. And the more you add into your canned, always know these things prompt in your settings, it's not going to be able to keep all that stuff in its mind all at once the longer you get into a conversation. So it's imperfect. In shorter conversations, it won't be a problem. But if you get into a lengthy conversation with lots of uploaded documents where that context window starts to get stretched, then it's going to start forgetting a lot of the things earlier on in the conversation. Terry, thank you. The context library. Well, there's a different name, though, in ChatGPT and Claude, though, for your general, like, here's all the stuff I want you to know about me. And the term for that is just slipping my mind at the moment. Yes, Jeffrey says, he tells the AI tool, don't you remember what you told me? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's wrong. I will say there are times when I get really frustrated at the AI and I give it a little more flack than I might on some days. I'm sure none of you have that issue, but I do. All right. We're down to just a couple of questions left in the queue. So if you have a question to ask, the link to do so is there in the chat. We might have space for one or two more. All right. Next up in the list is Shanta. Hey, Shanta. Shanta says, do you have much experience with building custom GPTs? I was watching a masterclass where they discussed it, but I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around whether or not I should be using conversations or custom GPTs and what is the best use of them. Can I call them anywhere or just in new conversations? Can you help me understand this concept? Absolutely. So Shanta has provided us with a link to this course. And does it say when this course was created? This is a pretty website. I don't know when this course was created, but what I will tell you is custom GPTs are a little bit last generation. And by that, I mean like a year ago. It's like a whole generation of AI has happened since since custom GPTs. And the idea is a lot of that has been moved. Many of the concepts, I'll start that way. Many of the concepts that surround a custom GPT have been moved into projects in your AI tool. And the idea here is of a custom GPT is I'm going to give it just a giant canned prompt. And it's through that lens that it will answer questions that are asked within the custom GPT. Does that make sense? So custom GPTs are really just a big canned prompt. Some of the more advanced custom GPTs might have their own data sets like if you're trying to do it outside of the typical tools, uh, yeah, it may have its own documentation and that sort of thing. So, like Melanie's saying, you could create a custom GPT for writing in your own voice, but you could also do that in a project, right? So it's the same thing. A custom GPT is going to be more like you can make it publicly available, whereas a project is just in your account. They're essentially today the same thing. So in general, I default to making good project instructions where you can upload documents for use within a project. So like every web client project that we create, it has a project, and in that project are the documents for the scope of work. And every time we have a call with the client, the transcript goes in there. So it just broadens the context inside of that project so that every conversation I have inside that project gets the context of everything we're talking about automatically. Does that make sense? So, they may be also, by the way, custom GPT is kind of a fuzzy term and it can mean a broad range of things. And so they may be approaching it in a different way than I am. So you said that's confusing. I don't know. Have I helped at all, Shanta, or have I just muddied the water? Like the things that you would do to create a custom GPT as you're learning in this course, it's supplying it with lots of information and context, right? You can do that inside any chat GPT conversation. You're just providing the context that's kind of built into the custom GPT in the conversation as a canned prompt or saved in project instructions. Shanta, but conversations in a project can't read each other. Oh, they can. Yes, they can. Conversations within the same project gain context from each other. That's the point of the project. Yes. Who says, wait a minute, when you say they specifically say they can't read each other? I know ChatGPT can, and I'm pretty sure Claude can as well. Interesting. Are you sure that's the most up-to-date documentation on ChatGPT where you're getting that? I'm pretty sure that that is not. Yeah, interesting. Unless they changed it, and also, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It wouldn't be the first time today. And I'm sure you're using the paid version of ChatGPT, right? I'm checking. We're just going to see if I can find anything really quickly on that. Yeah. Yeah. Project chats within projects can share each other's context. That's pretty sure that's, yeah. Now, granted, that was Gemini's answer about ChatGPT. So we're, battling the AIs one against another. Right here. ChatGPT can draw anything in the shared project, including chats, files, and custom instructions. Yep. So this is the document for projects updated 9 days ago. So I'm going to drop this in the chat if anybody wants to reference that. And I think it's been this way for quite a while. That's when I started using projects, I think this time last year, maybe before that. It's been this way for a long time. Like that was the point of projects. They have shared instructions, shared resources, and they can learn from each other. Okay. So Shanta, I hope I haven't confused the matter, but hopefully you've gotten a little more clarity. Okie dokie. We're going to move on to the final question of the hour from Melanie. Hey, Melanie. Why would I choose Claude AI over ChatGPT? Is it simply a preference, or are there differences in usage and better response? Is there a price difference or similar pricing? Great questions. So, Melanie, I drug my feet for a long time moving to Claude from ChatGPT, but we're finding we're finding Claude is better. It's better at code writing. It is better at writing words, copywriting. That's what I'm after. It's better at copywriting. It has better. I use Claude Local all the time. So rather than having to copy and paste file snippets, I can give access to Claude in a folder on my desktop, and it will just write the code there. It is just better in a lot of ways. Now I'm still paying for both. Now, and what created the friction with me moving from ChatGPT to Claude, and the reason I'm still keeping ChatGPT is that I've used it for years, and it knows so much about me. It knows what I like and my preferences right away without me having to create extra context. It has that context built in its memory about me already. And so Claude, though, I think is where we're moving to the point where I might even start paying for that $100 a month Claude, because I think I would get my money's worth out of it. However, currently I'm paying for both. Price-wise, they are the same. Let's just take a quick look. I can spell. ChatGPT, you're going to find it starts at $20 a month. They added didn't know they added this, kind of a light version. But the plus version, which is where I would recommend that you land, is $20 a month. And Claude is going to be the same price. Come on. I just want the pricing. That's not what I wanted. Individual. There we go. Oh, they lowered the price just a touch. That may be, no, that's it. So $17 a month. Oh, $20. There we go. That's per month, annual, $20 monthly. So it's the same cost. That was a long way around to say they cost the same. So what I would recommend that you do, Melanie, since you're already using ChatGPT, just spend $20 and try Claude. See what you think. I think you will find that the quality of responses are just better for everything. That's what we're finding. Yeah. Compare them head to head and think. Ben is asking, can you ask ChatGPT to dump all the data it has on you and transfer it? I don't know. You probably could. It would be a massive data dump. I don't know. Elizabeth, why do you never mention Grok? I find it better than ChatGPT for copy. I don't use Grok, Elizabeth, just for personal reasons. And so I've never really even experimented with it. If it's working great for you, that's great. Alvin is asking, any thoughts on Claude through Perplexity? Claude through Perplexity, or use Claude directly? I've not used Claude in conjunction with Perplexity either. Perplexity is fine. I think it excels at research. Each one of these tools has their own thing they're a little bit, maybe marginally better at than others. Perplexity seems to be marginally better at research. Claude seems to be better at code. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about this? Aside from which is your favorite AI tool? The personal reasons that I don't choose Claude are basically that it has to do with Claude's image generation and the fact that it creates adult-oriented images, is what I'll say, without people's consent. I just find that inexcusable, personally. All righty. Okay, that I believe wraps us up. That brings us to the end of our questions. So thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll be back for office hours next Thursday. Hope you have a great weekend and have a lot of fun. I'll see you back here next Thursday on Agency Success with Hosting.com, where we go further together.